Hey guys, I'm Alyssa, and today is the first episode in a series that I'm titling Representation Matters. In this series, I'm going to be looking at different characters from fictional media and judging whether or not they are a good or bad example of what they're trying to represent. To begin with, I'm primarily going to be looking at transgender characters because I feel, as a trans person myself, that is something that, I can talk more about due to my own experiences, and it's also a group of people that aren't really represented all that well in the media, and it's not really all that often that they're represented in media, and when they are, it's not really talked about. So I kind of wanted to make this series as a way to talk about it and highlight some good representation and, just give credit where credit is due. So, to begin with, I'm going to be looking at a character that kind of inspired me to create this series, and that character is Escapade, aka Shela Sexton from the Marvel Comics. So, Escapade was created by Charlie Jane Anders and debuted in the Marvel's Voices Pride issue for 2022 in a short story titled Permanent Sleepover. When we meet Sheila, she and her best friend Morgan, who is also trans, live in Queens, New York with their genetically engineered flying turtle Hibbert. And basically, Sheila's on a mission to steal an onyx needle, which is an artifact that can help her change her fate, from this billionaire who owns a helicarrier. And the reason why she's doing this is because Emma Frost and Destiny showed her a vision that she would use her powers and would cause her best friend Morgan to die. And so, in order to protect him, she lies, tells him that they're going on this mission, doesn't really tell him why, and then when things blow up in her face and they fail, she then has to admit the truth, confess to Morgan that she lied to him, and that, she might accidentally cause his death, which is a lot for anyone to really take in, and this information does put a strain on their relationship. But what puts a strain on the relationship more than anything is the fact that Sheila lied in order to protect him, which is just a very relatable thing. I feel like that is just a very human response. You just want to protect someone. You don't really consider how they might take the information. You kind of just withhold it to spare them, when really the best thing to do is to just talk to them. And I feel like a lot of people do that. And so it's just a very well-rounded way to write the character immediately, like in the first issue. So after this, Sheila admits that she needs help, so she goes off with Emma Frost to train with the mutants on the island Krakoa in order to try and stop herself from losing control and ending up costing Morgan his life. We also, throughout the issue, get these little flashbacks to young Sheila and Morgan, which is drawn in the Peanuts art style, so very, Snoopy, which is just absolutely adorable, and I love it. And it tells the beautiful story of basically Sheila and Morgan confessing to each other that they're both mutants and trans, and so they find each other and they grow closer as people because they are so like-minded. And then it also goes on to detail how Sheila was accepted by her family when she came out as a mutant, but then was ostracized and didn't feel safe at home anymore when she finally confessed that she was trans to them. I love this way of doing it because it's perfect. It's beautiful, it's cute, and it allows you to do it in an artsy way that kind of, you don't have to show them pre-transition. And I love that. We don't need to see what Sheila and Morgan looked like pre-transition because that's not who they are. That's not important. We don't need to know that information. All we need to know is who they are. And I love that they have, really, really cute little artistic representations of themselves as these little peanut characters for, like, when they were in their teens and finding themselves, and it's just so beautiful. And, like, we get, like, a moment with Morgan helping Sheila do her makeup and kind of, like, remarking, you know, at least me being taught how to do makeup and kind of being brought up as a girl, like, has paid off, because, you know, in that way he's able to give Sheila gender euphoria by helping her do her makeup, and it's adorable, and just, like, two little queer kids helping each other out. It's so beautiful, and I just love it, and I feel like I'm gushing a lot, but honestly, like, the representation of Sheila and Morgan's relationship is just absolutely beautiful, and yeah, it's just two trans kids helping each other out. And yeah, like, I love that. Like, it's what we need. It's what we need. So, this being Marvel, and Sheila being a mutant, she of course has her own set of powers and abilities. And essentially her power is that she can trade circumstances with another, whether it be their location, their equipment and clothing, or their abilities, and even their physical condition. She discovered this, as she says in the comics, when she was in the 9th grade and she accidentally traded places with her head teacher, and these changes usually only really last a few hours, but of course it's a very potentially powerful and dangerous power, which is why the mutants want to help her control it. Especially because, you know, in the circumstance of the Vision, she accidentally trades places with Morgan while she's falling to her death, which then leads to Morgan falling to his death instead. And yeah, so obviously she needs to be able to learn to control that. And actually later, when she's introduced into the New Mutants storyline, she talks a bit more about how her powers work, and actually kind of confirmed a little theory that I had about how they really tie into her being trans. And essentially, she trades places with a human henchman, who are these humans who want to steal mutants' powers. But anyway, so she trades places with this henchman, and essentially she is able to fit in as one of the U-Men, so long as she keeps up the charade and acts like a U-Men soldier. She essentially states that so long as she doesn't arouse suspicion and acts as that person would, then she can pass as that person. And that, you know, it kind of, you know, a light bulb went off in my head, and of course her power is kind of a representation of the idea of passing and having passing privilege. So obviously if Sheila uses her powers effectively and is able to pass as another, then she's not going to arouse suspicion. But if she acts in a way that is deemed not how that person would act, then of course people are going to catch on and kind of start to see that she is an imposter, which is, you know, it's kind of how there's the idea that, you know, trans women and trans men have to act and look a certain way in order to be perceived by society as either a man or a woman, depending. And if you don't really fall into that, if you don't look the right way, and if you don't act the right way, then people will just misgender you and discriminate against you because in their minds you're not good enough. And I just thought it was a very beautiful way to kind of touch on that without, you know, going very heavy-handed with it. It's a nice subtle way to kind of weave that in without it being super depressing and just getting very real for the reader. And I love it because it highlights the issues that we have in society in a nice, digestible way, which, you know, that's what the X-Men have been doing since their inception, because the whole idea of the X-Men is that it was a commentary on the civil rights movement back in the 60s. And yeah, it's nice to see that theme being continued on into the modern day, especially with the debate now kind of being shifted to trans people and their rights. So yeah, like, Sheila being a mutant is just perfect. And, you know, they end up going to a mutant rally where there are protesters trying to convince people that these mutants are a danger to society, and they're just there living their lives. They're there to show people that they're not a threat and that they are just regular people. And that is essentially, you know, protests like that happen in the real world, where TERFs will argue that trans women are a danger to women and girls, and we're just out here trying to show them that we are not the danger and that we are just trying to live our lives and trying to get on with existing, and they are constantly trying to make life harder for us, which is, you know, it's exactly a parallel. So I feel personally that Escapade is handled in a very good way. I feel like she handles a lot of topics surrounding trans rights and trans-related issues in a nice, digestible way for the reader, in a way that I feel like cis people can understand and relate to, and maybe grow a bit more empathetic towards trans people because of her. So, you know, I feel like Escapade, she may not be one of the best representations of trans characters, but I do feel like she is a very strong contender, and I really love her. And to speak plainly, like, this, maybe I'm biased because obviously I'm trans, but at the end of the day, when I read Permanent Sleepover for the first time, I cried because that was the first time that I saw myself in media, you know? It was the first time that I could actually look at a character and see me, because she is an incredibly nerdy girl. She has brownish hair, green eyes. I have a very similar body type to her with the same height. Like, we're both trans, both massive nerds, like I said. I feel very represented, and it's lovely, and it's a feeling that I haven't really felt that way about. Like, there have been characters before, there have been trans characters before, but I feel like a closeness to Escapade, and maybe it's because I'm a massive nerd and a big fan of comics, so it's nice to be seen in that medium. But there's just something special to me about Escapade, and honestly, you know, just putting this out there, I would love to see Escapade be brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would love for them to do live-action Escapade, whether they do, like, a Disney Plus show or, like, a special, or just put her into a movie, introduce her with the mutants. I feel like she would be a very good way to introduce the mutants, because obviously she has her own thoughts and feelings about the mutants, and then as she gets to know them, she kind of, her worldview shifts a little. So I feel like she would be a good way to kind of introduce the wider world of mutants into the Marvel Universe in the cinema. So, you know, Disney, Marvel, get on it, you know? If you need someone to play her, you know, I'm very much up for that. Kind of kidding, but, like, you know, that'd be awesome. Yeah, like, I feel like she's really good, and I definitely would love to see her in live action, now that she's had a chance to kind of shine and come into her own in the comics a little. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say. I feel like if I talk anymore, I'm just gonna ramble on, so I guess to close things off, thank you for watching. Hopefully this has not been too hard to follow. Sorry if it's been a bit rambly. Obviously, with different characters, there will be a slightly different format. Like, I do have the plan to, if there are characters from a television show, to just watch clips and kind of react and give my thoughts on how the character is represented in those clips. But yeah, obviously, because the nature of Escapade, it's kind of hard to do that, so sorry if this has been a little chaotic, but she's a character that I love, and is definitely one that I thought was worth sharing, and I thought a great way to start this series off, so yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, you know, consider giving it a thumbs up. You can always subscribe, but you don't have to. There's no pressure to do so. And yeah, like, I guess if you have a suggestion of a character you'd like to see me cover in the future, then you can always just drop a comment down of the character in the comments, and maybe I'll get round to it at some point soon. But yeah, before I go on for too much longer, I'm gonna close this one off. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!